For issuance of the visitor visa, I think the biggest hurdle is where you apply if you're a Russian national, because the embassy in Russia is closed, obviously, so you have to find a third country. And many Russians, for example, went to Turkey, and right now the visa wait interview time is over a year.
Meet Kate Kalmakov, a highly accomplished expert in business immigration and EB-5 investments. With nearly 20 years of experience, she has helped structure over $12 billion in EB-5 projects and guided thousands of investors to secure U.S. green cards. As co-chair of the Global Immigration and Compliance Practice at Greenberg Traurig, Kate is known for her hands-on approach and dedication to simplifying the immigration process. Recognized by Chambers USA, Super Lawyers, and Law Dragon 500, Kate's influence reaches across industries, making her a trusted authority in immigration law. I'm Shay Zamanian, founder of the American Legal Center. I'm going to act as your EB5 guru, curating the best content of EB5 so you don't have to spend time scouring the internet looking for that. I'm going to introduce you to all the established players in the EB5 game and why they're important. I'll help you analyze, ask all the important questions about the EB5 process so you have actionable takeaways to apply it to your EB5 visa journey. Our offices are based in downtown Dubai. We are a team of US licensed lawyers and are your active guides through the EB5 process. We help you gather all your documents for your application, find the best projects to invest in, and coordinate your filing with Washington, D.C. We have filed the most EB5 applications from the region and have the experience and breadth of knowledge to ensure your success. Now let's get started. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about all topics in relation to Russian nationalities applying to the U.S. Golden Visa program, that being the EB-5 visa category. I'm here today with, actually, did you know that you're one of my favorite people in EB-5?
Oh, thank you.
I think you know that though, right?
Thank you.
So
And you're mine.
Thank you. Okay, so Kate Kalmakov from Greenberg Traurig, you are the co-chair of Global Immigration and Compliance Practices. So you're here with us. You're mostly based on the East Coast, but you come and visit us often, and I'm so glad you do. And you're joining us here for EB5 Unplugged, so thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And you happen to also be of Russian descent, is this correct?
Correct.
Okay, talk to us about sort of your nationality, your background, and perhaps your ancestors, which part of Russia, because obviously it's the biggest country in the world, so tell us more.
Sure. Well, my father is from Russia, my mother is from Ukraine, and I immigrated to the U.S., so I have an intimate knowledge of the U.S. immigration process, having lived through it, and my family, myself, and I think my immigration story is sort of what made me want to become an immigration lawyer, help other people in the same position, people who want to send their children to the U.S. to be educated, people who want to open businesses, people who want to work in the U.S., and I really love what I do. So
together we help Russian clients. Obviously you're fluent in Russian. Care to share us some insight or address our viewers in Russian? I would love for you to do that.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Екатерина Калмыкова. Я занимаюсь программой EB5, это золотая виза в Америку. Уже почти 20 лет, и я помогала сотни людей из России, бывшего Советского Союза, получить американское право на жительство и паспорт. И я буду рада вам тоже помочь с подачей петиции, инвестиций и отвечать на ваши вопросы, связанные с программой EB5.
Amazing. So Kate and I have been helping clients for over 10 years, help them essentially make an investment and get rewarded with a green card for themselves and their family. Do you remember the first time we actually met?
Yes.
Do tell.
10 years ago, right?
Yes.
Here in Dubai. And Greenberg Traurig was exhibiting at one of the real estate conventions here. And that's how we met. And we've been fortunate to work together, to have a lot of good times together, and to help hundreds of clients together.
That's something that I've always admired about you, is the audacity. So you were here in the Middle East, and you are essentially exhibiting, and it doesn't sound like such a big deal, but not too many people are willing to do that, to fly abroad and to take the chance of their time and efforts to see if we can educate markets. So we both have done that in the UAE.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, I've been coming to Dubai for 12 years, and every time it amazes me. The UAE amazes me. Every time I come, when I come every 3-4 months, if something's new, a building has gone up, some other new business or direction that the government is taking has opened up, and it's just such a hub and an amazing center of talented, hardworking people. And I really feel like when you're here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, they build all the way up there, that's for sure. And let's talk about that. So the sky's the limit here. It's a basket of safety. There's a lot of positivity going on here. Unfortunately, the world is in peril in other parts of the world, right? So you have your background in both Russian and Ukrainian, and I'm sure, you've got your stance on what's going on. But with that said, we've had a lot of Russians and also Ukrainians. They've then come to the UAE. So we have spoken to a lot of them, and although they do appreciate the space here, ultimately, there aren't proven paths to stay here forever. It becomes a beautiful stepping stone to then go off to some other land. And a lot of them, from my understanding, is that they do have dreams and aspirations of going to the US. Are there any particular narratives from your Russian background and how they view the US and why they want to go there?
I think for many people, they view the U.S. as a land of opportunity, right? It's traditionally been called that for business, for innovation, for entrepreneurship. It absolutely is. People from Russia, from Ukraine, from Kazakhstan, from the former USSR tend to be highly educated, very capable, very smart, and they have, a background in which they want to apply their skills. So that attracts them to the U.S. The other big factor for immigration is our education system, particularly our higher education system. And so we see a lot of EB-5 clients, even they may not be interested in moving or leaving the UAE, but they want their children to go to university in the United States, and they want to carve a pathway for them to remain in the U.S. if they want to, not to rely on an employer sponsor, which can be difficult to secure. And so they do the EB-5 for them. They often gift them the funds. Sometimes they go as an entire family unit. It really depends on the circumstances. But I would say economic motivation, education are the primary impetuses for people from Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the former USSR.
It makes a lot of sense. I would say at least 80% of our clients that undertake this program or think about doing this for their families, many of them are doing it for the future generation of their kids. They want their kids to have access to education. And so for that reason, we're actually seeing a lot of Russians and Russian-speaking nationalities reach out to us in hopes of applying and making it to the US. So notwithstanding what's happening in the world, a lot of our viewers from Russian backgrounds are worried that if I were to seek immigration to the US, maybe our relations aren't the best, maybe I wouldn't get an approval, or perhaps there would be discrimination through the process. Let's talk about that a little bit. Give us your take on when we do file for Russian persons now today that want to move to the US.
That's actually a great question, and I get asked that all the time. So what I would say is there's no ban on Russians applying for immigration in any of our immigration programs to the US, and certainly not in EB-5. What there is a prohibition against is sanctioned individuals and funds moving from sanctioned financial institutions. Those are not possible right now. Everyone aside from that can. You have to show where your money came from. You have to show the movement of your money, but so does everybody else applying for EB-5. And yes, you have to present a lot of documents to do that, and you and I guide people through that all the time, but it's possible, it's happening, and there's people who say, won't my application be scrutinized? It really depends on how well the case is prepared. I had a case approved this week that it just went through, no request for evidence, nothing. It just got approved from the time of filing. Others, people may not give us the documents necessary. Maybe it's too, bulky. They think they'll get through.
Don't you love that when clients are like, do you really need this? It's like, but you paid us to tell you how to put together an application.
Some people want to roll the dice. They want to take their chances.
I agree.
Our job as lawyers, those boring, annoying lawyers, is to say, look, you got to give everything. And we'll file it if you don't, but the request will come because the government needs to check its boxes, and that's fair.
True. So, essentially the takeaway is because you're of Russian background or Russian associated background, there is no additional scrutiny or discrimination when you apply. Essentially the same rules as yourselves versus a Swiss person are then applied. Ultimately, we just have to show the money that you're investing into the US economy. Where did those funds come from? What's the story? How did you make that money? And so when you come and see us, we dive into your story, we understand what you're about, and then we tell you what documents to begin collecting so that we can better tell your story to the US government. It sounds scary, but Russians get approved all the time, so it shouldn't be an issue.
And the beauty of the EB-5 program is that your funds can really come from any source. Income, maybe you're no longer in Russia, you relocated after the war, but you have an apartment and you sell the apartment. It can be that. It can be a sale of stock. It can be money from a divorce proceeding. It can be lottery winnings. I actually did a Russian case where we had somebody, they were a world poker champion. They used their winnings from the World Poker Championship to make their investment. It's very flexible. What we're looking for is documentation and a lawful source.
Okay, so we know that the US Golden Visa, namely the EB-5 program, is available. I just want to spend a few moments talking about perhaps just visiting. Have you noticed that people applying for what's called the visit visa, which is the B category, what are those approvals looking like? Has it become a lot more difficult, or is it more or less the same?
For issuance of the visitor visa, I think the biggest hurdle is where you apply if you're a Russian national, because the embassy in Russia is closed, obviously, so you have to find a third country. And many Russians, for example, went to Turkey. And right now the visa wait interview time is over a year. So you have to find a location where you can actually, get in and within a reasonable amount of time. And many people are simply waiting. Or you already have a B1, B2 in your passport.
You might have a 10-year.
Exactly, and you travel into the US. In 2022, the EB-5 law changed, and in many ways, it's very favorable to investors. And one of the wonderful changes is that it took a concept that we have in other immigration categories called concurrent filing, and it applied it to EB-5, which is basically that you can file your EB-5 petition and your green card application at the same time. You have to wait for a period of time after you come into the US, but you can adjust from your visitor status. So what's the benefit? When you file that way, you can remain in the US for the pendency of your application. You're in this authorized period of stay. You don't need to secure another visa. You're given work authorization. You're given international travel authorization. And it's a win-win for many people.
So what you're telling me is if you have access to the visitor visa, really what ends up happening is you can file your application for the EB-5 and move today. Yeah. This is extraordinary. This is not something that was available previously. And so with the changes that came about in a couple of years ago, now that this is an option, and it's highly favorable.
It's highly favorable, and it's highly favorable also to students studying in the United States. Maybe we have people that are there already in F1 student status. They can do the same procedure, and the advantage is they get work authorization, which if you're an F1 student, the rule is you can work for 20 hours on campus a week, and that's it. So this gives you the ability to get the job, to start working in your field of endeavor, to not be reliant on post-graduation finding a sponsor to maintain your ability to remain in the U.S.
So the takeaway here, file your application, move tomorrow or move immediately, get work authorization, so that you can begin living your life as an American, and then before you know it, the green card is processed, and you and your family are then declared U.S. people.
I also want to add that for people with minor children, they obviously cannot go to school on a B1, B2. That's a violation of the U.S. immigration laws. But as soon as you file that green card application, those younger children can also enroll in school.
Perfection. And okay, so you throw me a question.
All right. Well, what do you say when you have somebody who's come to Dubai, they're here from Russia? What do you tell them when they come in and they inquire about the EB-5? What are you looking at when they're coming from Dubai? Are you looking at sources of funds from Russia? Are you looking at already their funds here? How are you guiding them?
So it's a case-by-case basis. Again, your chances of approval really come down to if you're able to prove up your source of funds. It's possible if you're here, you might already have a business account set up. So we will look at both activity from Russia and also here, see which one makes the most sense, where we have a viable explanation as to your source of funds, and we put forth those documentations. What's great about families that have moved to the UAE, to Dubai specifically, is there's a freedom to transfer funds. So that definitely helps in the process.
I would also add that a lot of Russians have money in crypto, and you can use crypto to apply for the EB-5, right? So that's something else where we get a lot of questions about it.
Talk to us. Tell me everything.
Well, that's how they've taken their funds out of Russia, and they use the crypto to file for the EB-5. So this was something new to the USCIS about maybe 5-6 years ago.
What are the RFEs that you're seeing when it comes to crypto?
Sure. I mean, they mostly center on how did you get the money to purchase the crypto, and they want to see the valuation of the crypto because it tends to fluctuate.
From the time you purchase to the time of sale.
Yes. So we have to show that information. But they've become a lot more attuned to it. They've become a lot more used to it. Whereas before it was this crazy thing. Now it's, become par for the course. And not just for Russian investors, for investors from different parts of the world. Especially those that got into crypto early and have really, generated significant
really
wealth.
And it's those Russians that have no budget. They're ready to go. Listen, we love our Russian clients. We're more than happy to help you through the process. We work together. You've got our offices here in Dubai. Kate's on the East Coast, primarily out of New York, mostly.
And of course, we have Russian-speaking staff to assist those that need it. We have the capability to review the documents in Russian, and we're very familiar with source of funds and processing cases from the region.
And we don't take on applicants or families that we sense would not get an approval. I know people like to roll the dice, but actually with us, if we're not convinced that you have a good shot at getting an approval, we don't file the application. I know that when you and I work together, this is how we operate, unless we're convinced.
It's not good for business, right? I've been doing EB-5 for close to 20 years, not trying to date myself, but a lot of our business is clients that are happy with our services, that refer their friends, that refer their family, and it becomes sort of a domino effect over the years. So it doesn't make sense for us to file applications that we know won't be successful.
I would also add, we've devoted our lives to EB-5, and that's why, I respect our partnership so much. And why gamble it and waste people's time? That's one. And the second thing is, if there are hurdles, if things become problematic, guess who's going to get you out of it? It's really ultimately then incumbent on us, and it becomes our headache. So we don't sign up for a headache. Essentially, when you meet with us, we will look at your source of funds, we'll look at your documents. If we sense you're going to get an approval, we'll help and guide you through the next step. We don't take on every client, but the ones that we take on see results and they're happy, and we would love to do it for the remainder of the Russian community. So definitely connect with us.
Yeah, you're in good hands.
Closing thoughts in Russian?
Спасибо большое. Я буду рада вместе с Шеем с вами работать над вашей EB-5 петицией, отвечать на ваши вопросы и помочь вам и вашей семье.
Sweet.
Спасибо.
Until next time.